Welcome to Fated, a podcast brought to you by Magella and Carly, two romantasy-obsessed readers who believe that great books must include declarations of undying love and deep thrusts of desire. Diving into the spicy, smutty fantasy genre, we are here for both the rattling of stars and headboards, and our podcast starts with the worlds of SJM, but delves into other realms. Did we mention that washboard abs and wands of all kinds are welcome in this inclusive and magically charged space? No topic is off limits, and no one is forced to have only one favourite heroine. Welcome to Fated, where we are unabashedly and wholeheartedly hot and heavy for spicy fantasy fiction. It's time to sit down and smut up. Warning, spoilers ahead. Yep. And today we are talking about Ledge. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive, a bit of a review, a bit of sharing some thoughts about reading it. And I've done a reread, and neither of us read any reviews, I don't think, before the book, but I think Carly might have seen some TikTok hype. And I definitely was already following the author because she is hilarious, Stacey McEwen. She's hilarious, and she is very big on socials, which is actually how this book came to be published, which is a really interesting story too. So this is the book, if you're watching and looking, and she has got, it's a trilogy. The second one is called Chasm. The third one is called Valley, and it is coming out in a few months. And she has just been signed by a different publishing house to publish a brand new series, which she actually spoke about at an event where I saw her. Let's talk about Ledge, because I loved it. I gave it a 4.8. I mean, we don't really rate with stars, I think. And also, I think most of my stars seem to be 5. Because I'm just like, it's 5 or no stars. 5, no stars.
You're very liberal with your 5s. You give them out.
I think that's now
and everywhere.
That's right. I actually feel like people are now doing 6 stars, which I think might wreck the whole 5-star system, but works well for me because I haven't left myself anywhere to go except for 6 and above. But I definitely felt it was a great read for me. Anyway, So let's dive in. Do you want me to just begin with the whole?
I actually think I'd really encourage people to go and follow Stace on TikTok. Whether you read her books or not, whether you enjoy her books or not, she's just hilarious. She is so funny. And so on TikTok, she's Stace McEwen, EWAN books. And she's like a TikTok sensation. What's she got now? 357,000 followers. But she just has the most hilarious skits about romantasy as a genre and how ridiculous some of the aspects of it are. And so, love her books, or, if they're not your cup of tea, still highly recommend going and following her. And just, to give a bit of context, I only read Ledge and Chasm recently in the last month or so. I can't remember when you read it. I think it was over the new year, maybe even late last year. For my own personal rating system, again, I actually don't want my stars to influence anybody, but it does give me an idea of where I sat with it. I was at 3.5 stars for this read, but I'm going to talk in a moment about why I think that if you read Ledge and Chasm together, I would have rated it a lot more. So let's dive in. What's the story about? What was your experience of it? Let's give people an idea of the synopsis.
So it's a really interesting premise, and with a bit of backstory as well. Stace started her TikTok during COVID, and she shared all these ideas. Like, she would often just talk about, what she was thinking about, and that's how this book kind of gained momentum in the first place, is that she kind of shared this idea for a story that she'd had, which was a girl who was living on a ledge, like an icy ledge on the side of a mountain in a very small community of humans, and they couldn't escape because it was a ledge and then a drop into an icy chasm that no one knew how deep it was or where it ended or what was on the other side. Brutal conditions, very hard to survive. And then to top it all off, once a year, a glacian, which is a being that has wings that I think feels to me, the way I pictured it, was kind of like an angel, like these big kind of wings with a human kind of body. Other people have kind of said they feel more like a dragon crossed with a human, and other people felt like they were less of a feathered wing and more of like a bat like wing. So I guess it depends how you read it. I think sometimes even with descriptions, I have already pictured it. Like when she does an author does an original depiction, I've kind of gone ding and it just pops into my head. So even if someone came back to me and said the Bat Boys look like this, I'd be like, no, sorry.
No, they don't.
Sorry.
Incorrect.
I've already, they're in my head and they will not be changing. So for me, they feel like a human with these big wings that look a little bit like an element of like a bird-like aspect, like quite severe, like strong bones, big, imposing, intimidating. And that is also because their activities. They come over and every family on the ledge has to present a sacrifice in a way, but they have to put one member of their family forward, and the Glacians, who come over in a little group, will take a small handful. Not all of them, yes. And they don't know how they get selected. There is punishment if you don't put someone forward. They will kill the whole family. The way they take them is quite brutal. They literally have claws at the end of their feet, kind of talons, and they pick them up. And so we are led to believe, and the townspeople of this tiny little ledge community believe, that nothing good is going to happen to those people. They're basically a meal, they assume, but they don't know. So there is that small chance that they are going off to a better life. Very small. That's kind of the premise of the story. And no one has ever gotten off the ledge and returned to tell the tale. So everyone feels like they're trapped here, and they have limited food. Occasionally there are food drops. There's little woods that they all have to grow their own wood to build their huts. But it's a very sort of dog eat dog, the fittest survive. It's brutal. I imagine it like the North or South Pole. Like it's like you're living on the side of Everest. Like, good luck. So that's kind of the premise. Dawson, who is our heroine, spelled with a Y, Dawson. And then she puts herself forward because she's the only one left in her family. And then she gets taken and she goes over to the other side. What she finds out is that when you are taken into the Glacian's palace, and then you are basically sacrificed. Your soul is needed as fuel, as energy for the king. And it goes into a pool. Your soul is sucked out, and then you become kind of like a shell of a person and a slave. So it's not a great existence, not much to look forward to, and you're basically not you anymore anyway. So Dawson, not excited about this, is given a choice because she's feisty, but also because she's our heroine. She can either try and escape down the mountain, which no one has ever successfully done, or she can sacrifice her soul. Obviously, she is an axe wielding. I forgot to mention that earlier. That's her weapon of choice because she chops down a lot of trees to survive. She's an axe wielding badass. So she chooses down the mountain. She needs to be monitored so that she essentially is assured that she will die. And Glacians, volunteer. One of them is this half-breed, Ryan. He volunteers himself to kind of watch her to make sure that, she doesn't make it. In the end, he flips sides. He's got an ulterior motive. He's actually fighting against the Glacians. He helps her escape. There's a whole kind of slow burn arc that happens over this part where they're together trying to keep each other alive. They hate each other. They're enemies. They're going to love each other. They get down to the bottom to find out many other things.
So I really want to talk about that premise. So I remember when you read it before me and you said to me, it's about this community of people and they live on this ledge and there's a sheer face, rock face of the mountain, and then there's a chasm and they don't know what happens and one gets selected. And I was like, wow, That is the coolest concept. It felt fresh, it felt really new, it felt different. And yeah, that was really compelling. I was like, yes, okay, that is definitely on the TBR. Like, that's going to get bumped right up to the top. So I want to say that first. I was like really excited to read this concept. For me, I enjoyed it. I read it. I binged it. Stacey got me. There was enough in there, obviously, for me to not DNF it. But Ledge for me fell a little bit short in the world building and the detail and complexity of characters. So, but that said, and I said this on my TikTok when I did a review too, that said, I would recommend people read Ledge and Chasm as if it's one book. Because as soon as I jumped into Chasm, I was like, oh, yes. There were like Stacey, then her writing improved. It became more complex. It gave enough depth to the characters, the world building. Like Ledge, for me, there was a lot of characters introduced that I was like, I want to know more, and I want to understand how they've come to be, and I want to understand their lore and their heritage. You know, like when the mage comes in and we learn about her, I'm like, and the magic system. I'm like, okay, and where did the Glacians even come from, and where's the history? What's the history of these creatures? You know, Stacey would write in Ledge, they've clearly always existed, but where from and why and how is this? Yeah, Ledge for me felt almost like an introductory novella kind of book. That was my experience. But Chasm, yeah, which we're not going to talk about today, but that hooked me. That was like, okay, I really felt the maturity of her writing. I felt like she came a long way from Ledge. So if you read it, that's my recommendation anyway. You just jump straight into Chasm and off you go. And now I'm really, really eager to read Valley when it comes out to, see what happens. But we are left with a huge cliffhanger. I can't believe you can't remember this, when the Queen kills Ryan, and we are left going, he's dead.
Of course.
Like, it was written really well at the end. I was like, shit, has she just killed off the main love interest? Like, was he not the main love interest? Because we all thought he'd be the main love interest, and which is,
but we were burnt by Tamlin, so we were like, there could be. I
had PTSD from Tamlin.
Anyone could die.
Yeah, yes. So a couple of the concepts that I really loved was, I don't know, I really love romantasy that's set in a freezing cold world. What is that? Like, it's so interesting to me, the actual landscape of,
it's a real thing.
Yeah. And I love that she was an axe wielder. Yeah. I'm picturing the trees and the ice and the snow and how cold she was. And I think that there is room there for Stacey to maybe go back and really go deeper into that. Maybe in the future, if she ever wants to like rewrite Ledge. Like I wanted more world building. I felt like it skimmed a bit across so much of that stuff. I could picture that world. I kind of had pictures of Narnia when I was young, and seeing like when they went through the wardrobe and they came into Narnia, I was like, the Ice Queen, the Witch Queen. Stacey's brain to come up with that kind of place and space in the world was awesome. I really, really loved that setting and the concept of the Ledge, and then seeing how the Glacians need basically the elixir of life sucked from humans to stay immortal. Like, cool concept. So what were some of the elements that you really, really loved?
It's so interesting because I think that what I'm realizing when I read a book is if it gets me emotionally, like if I like the character, the main character especially, I get swept up to the detriment of anything else. Like, I feel like I become far less critical because the reason I'm reading is to feel something.
Yes.
So if I'm reading this book and it was really surprising to me to read some of the reviews and to be like, oh, she writes in quite short sentences and it's quite an abrupt style. And I was like, I went back and I was like, really? I didn't notice that at all.
But that's because you read at the speed of lightning that I don't think you notice full stops. You can't notice full stops. There's no time for you to note. You couldn't. You read like 900 words a minute, literally. So I think that it's all just one sentence for you.
This one sentence. But, I have had experiences in the last year like when I've really gone deep in the romantasy world over the last 2 years. I have had a couple of books that I really struggled. Like I felt like this writing style doesn't resonate, or I'm not into the character, or it's so underdeveloped that I just literally feel like I'm reading the sort of the plan, the what they've sent in to the editor to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking the story is going to be. And I didn't have that experience at all. I loved Dawson. I also feel some aspect of like the magic is amplified by the cold. Like it's just because as well, I mean, you definitely live in a colder climate than me, but we're not surrounded by, snow and icicles and frozen lakes, and we don't have dark for 6 months of the year. There's no castles, and not everyone has roaring fireplaces and trudges to work through like sleet and snow. So I think that aspect of the cold is very compelling. I liked the banter. I really loved that it felt like a true depiction. For me, I felt like, yes, I can see why she has walls, and she is a bit kind of rough around the edges and sort of hasn't allowed her soft, feminine, kind of flowering heart to be seen, because it would be crushed in an instant in that environment. And I understood that the layers of hurt and pain over years after losing each member of her family, and also other members of the community that she became close to, like the parents of people that she kind of grew up with, that kind of starts to compact into sort of like hard layers around her heart. So I felt like I really resonated with the way that she was kind of portrayed as this woman who's lived on the ledge. And then I really loved their connection, and his goodness, and the fact that he also had a really tough time being a hybrid, and who his parents were, and kind of just being in that Galatian society, which is very brutal and doesn't celebrate goodness, and really, is an apex predator pyramid of like, who is the strongest and will kill the most, and that is who rules. So I loved that he really struggled with that and was fighting back and was seeking a way to change the society he was birthed into. So I loved that they both didn't love where they lived and how they lived, and the conditions and where they lived, and knew that it wasn't right. Like, this isn't the way that people should be living. This isn't all that there should be. And both of them have this sense of adventure and kind of wildness, and this let's go over into the chasm, because it's a place of possibility. It's a place of, could there be more? Like, I feel like both of them could have easily become very jaded, very bitter, very evil, but they both have clung on to this goodness within their hearts and souls. And so for me, like, that swept me up. I instantly wanted her to win for sure. And then when I met him, I was like, yes. And I can see that their pathways align and taking them towards a better place, a better world. And I'm a sucker for a better world. It's that real hopeful kind of, sort of dreamer in me. I'm like, yes, a better world. And also, he sounded hot. She's already got this like sassy fire, but also wants to be loved, like so desperately wants to be loved. I also think that a lot of the female characters that I really resonate with have this curiosity about life. Like, they want to experience more, they want to know more, they want to see more. And I think I really resonate with that. So that I felt like that came through in her character as well. I mean, I almost feel like the world building was so secondary for me. I was like, yeah. There's a crystal pool that sucks souls, and they've got to get over it thing. But I was really like, these two.
Yeah, I wanted more. I really wanted more. I felt like their characters were really underdeveloped and could go so much deeper. And I really hope that we see that Happening of Stacey's character development in the future books. We did see it in Chasm, and we got more. And I guess I'm really struggling because I'm like, I don't want to say that I didn't enjoy Ledge because I really did. It just felt like, I wanted more. The bones were there, the characters were there. I did not really love, like, I didn't fall for Ryan. I felt like Dawson was, there's epic elements to her, but I again wanted that to be fleshed out. It's almost like I wanted Ledge to be maybe a 600 pager. Like, give me more. And I really love that. And because I know there's so much potential there for this author and what she's going to create in the future, and I will keep reading. But she also, like before you said, some people have said she writes really short sentences. I'm kind of looking at my Kindle now and going, I think there's a nice mixture of length here, but there are some stunning words, some really stunning paragraphs, some really incredible prose. Like chapter 1, it got me straight away. Like chapter 1 was like, oh my God, I can see how cool this book's going to be. I can see why Magella loved it, because it starts with, the cold is cruel, but it is not alive. It can consume you, extort you, and convince you to do unspeakable things. It can turn your enemies into body heat and your friends into the coats you steal from their backs. The cold does not live, but there can be no ridding yourself of it. That's just like, that to me is an opening paragraph. It's like, okay, tell me more. Like, that's really compelling. So I've highlighted quite a lot in my Kindle where I'm like, whoa, that's beautiful. The way she writes her words. Although for me, the story arc was lacking in that depth, there were just moments that stopped me in my tracks. Like, gosh, she's written that so beautifully. And so I just see so much potential in her and her books. And I'm really excited to keep reading into the future.
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
I wrote a few notes after reading lots of reviews, because it's obviously our take on these books.
Absolutely.
And why we love them and how we feel about them. But I'm curious for other people's experiences. Like, that's why I want to know how people feel after reading the same books as me. So I want to read these reviews, not to disparage the author or to have any kind of superiority or, to kind of show how much I know or whatever. It's to be like, what were other people's experiences of the same emotional turmoil that I have just been through? But I found it really interesting. I wrote down a few things that were very common in the 3-star and below reviews, because I don't often read reviews. So that's why I found it was like a whole new world. I was like, this is interesting.
Welcome to this world. Yeah.
But anyway, people have said almost word for word what you have said. Not enough world building, not enough depth in the main characters, in an inconsistent writing style, too much slow burn and not enough action and that wasn't even just in relation to the sex. It was like too much slow burn in terms of like things are going to happen, and then when they actually were happening, it didn't go for long enough. Like the trek down the mountain felt short, but it was meant to be down this side of an Everest, and it was like, one person wrote, was it more of a hill? Was it more of a hill
than a mountain?
And then the last one was convenient plot solutions. Like, people were like, look, I just felt like characters appeared because it was like, we need someone to push the plot forwards. And all of these things, I'm like, I just didn't none of them come to my mind ever. But almost 100% of these people, other than a couple of the 1-stars, but almost 100% of these people also then wrote, could not put it down, found this perplexing, loved it, devoured it.
Yeah.
It was only upon reflection afterwards could kind of jot these points down, was literally downloaded Chasm straight away, like almost read it.
That's my experience.
Back page, picked up Chasm. So I find that so interesting that from like almost like an analytical part of your brain, they've gone, look, these things kind of weren't there for me, but like for some reason still couldn't put it down. Finished it really quickly, read the other one straight away. That is really telling about the potential of an author too, that maybe there's some things that for a first book, like, it's incredible, like to And to have written it
Absolutely.
over many years, she said that it kind of, the idea was there, but she sort of wrote it in chunks. And now she's actually a full-time author. Like her job is to write. So now she
It's
is,
great.
that's what she does
Yeah.
with her life. Like, what a
Yeah.
dream.
How
But
exciting.
I do feel like that was, I found that so cool that it was like, even though there's all these people going like, yeah, but this, this wasn't there. And but also
Yeah. Loved
couldn't
it.
put it down or read it so fast, or like literally the second book, like it was a non-negotiable. So it's
Yeah.
like interesting, like what is that? Like what is that?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, those same people had written, didn't like the writing style or struggled with the narrative or abrupt sentences, and yet are still saying, like, so what is
They
that
didn't DNF it.
intangible
And it'll be so
magic?
cool to discuss that with Stacey, what she thinks that is, or how she reflects on that, or how she takes that. Because it is obviously she's getting more book deals, it's selling, people are reading it, people are perplexed by maybe why why they finished it, but then they're getting Chasm and loving that too. So she's put some kind of magic in there. And look, for me, I think it really is the really interesting concept, the plot, the characters, it's all there, the framework for her to keep building upon. And I wonder if in years to come she'll go back and maybe rewrite that book. I don't know. I don't know if writers do that or not, but um,
I
there
would
was,
love a prequel. Let's
yeah,
go.
maybe,
I
yeah,
Because you know, later on, without doing any spoilery things, we do find out more about how Ledge, the community, came to be.
that's
And I
right.
think that, like, having that from a first person perspective who's living it and how they got there, like, imagine how
Mm,
cool that would be to read. Like, how did they actually physically get up to this remote thing? Did they know that they would be stuck there forever? Did they take anything? Like, when you go on Survivor, you're allowed to take some tools. Like, were they able to be like, where, did they know where they were going? Like, were they blindfolded in the night? Were they willingly told this could be your new oasis and they
yeah,
went thinking it would be better than where they were from? Like, I would love a prequel.
yeah, absolutely. As I said, I'm looking at my highlights, going, there were some stunning sentences and phrases. You know, her knees, page 249, her knees sank to the ground and she screamed into her hands for her grandmother, for Briar, for her father and sister, for the ones on the ledge, for the ones who never left the fallen village. And then she screams for herself, for a fate never meant for her. Sorry, for the first time since touching true ground, she wishes she was back on the ledge, where the rules were simple, behaviours predictable, intentions plain. Like there's a level of complexity around the human experience there that I really connected with. And that's what I mean by, like, I'm like, I want more of that. Like, I want this. Dawson has gone through so much trauma. She was born on the ledge. She doesn't know any different. And then she's put into, she obviously escaped. She's in a different environment. Everything is new. I remember reading when Stacey was writing about, like, when Dawson felt the sun on her face for the first time. And so there was those moments through the book that obviously kept me captured enough, because I was like, oh, imagine having never felt the sun on your face. Imagine having never seen flowers grow, because nothing grew on the ledge except for trees that took an eternity and they only grew them for heat and warmth. There was that curiosity for me as a reader of, like, what would that feel like, the trauma that she went through, like those kind of paragraphs. I was like, oh, I want more, I want to understand that more. And as I said, we get more of that in Chasm, and I'm sure we'll get even more of that in Valley. Then there was little sentences like, murderers murdered, thieves stole, lovers fucked, and no one flourished more than the other on the ledge. There's words like that that just grab me. What else did I have highlighted here? Look, let's talk about that love story, because you said that you found Ryan hot. I didn't. I didn't. I still kind of don't. I'm like, meh, not my cup of tea. Interesting. Hey, like, hello, he's got wings, like, Cassian does. He's a warrior. He's lovely. He's, got a good heart. Why am I not fallen for this guy? But I didn't. I haven't. So you can have Ryan. That's fine. I'll give you him. But there were some things that he said, like page 275. Every part tempts me, girl. Can I also say I didn't love girl? He calls her girl throughout the story.
which so many people
Didn't
hate.
love it.
Like it was such a sticking point in the reviews. They're like, if she
She's a
does that,
woman.
if she writes that one more time.
Yeah, didn't like it. I'm like, she's a woman. Nah. Anyway, it'd be cool to ask her why she used that word. Every part tempts me, girl. Every inch.
Hmm.
You can keep yourself from me all you like, but not one part of you won't be branded to my memory. And then she kisses him. Like, that's the first kiss, I think.
I mean,
So, yes, there was slow
yes, there
burn, but
are
I
some.
guess we always get slow burn in the first books. Like, that to me, I'm like, you're always going to get. I don't mind a bit of slow burn. Hello, like Throne of Glass. I waited till what? Book 600 for that action. I'm okay with a slow burn. For me, though, I did feel like she kind of trusted him too quick. He has been the enemy her whole freaking life. I don't know. Again, just wanted more. Wanted more. But
I know,
still,
but I feel like
still
she,
loved it.
she hasn't ever really, she's only had the same men around her. Like she hasn't really had a choice of anyone new. Like he is built, he's half human, so he's kind of got this real kind of element of familiarity, I imagine. And he's
True.
crossed with like a Glacian, so he is like strong and, built differently and bigger and so I feel like there's also and also sometimes you just can't explain chemistry. You see someone, you just like them, you're just like, ooh, hot.
But she also like hated him and resisted him for a long, 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 long time. So I don't know. That didn't quite gel for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I feel like I wonder if I would. I mean, I've reread it like a couple times now, and I found it the same. Like I just felt like it was so easily consumable. Like I felt like I could,
Yes,
you know, read it. It was
I agree.
fun. I enjoyed their interactions. I didn't until the end, that cliffhanger. I really didn't have any huge kind of peaks and troughs, but I did really read it kind of, but I guess because I really liked him, like,
Yeah.
and I got them together, and so I felt like I was rooting for them already, and I guess maybe I wasn't. And again, it's so interesting, like when you read this and like what time of the month and what book you've just come off and how many times did you pick it up? I mean, I didn't read it straight away when I found out about it. And I think I bought it and then it was kind of still sat beneath a few of the hyped books that were kind of like really pulling my attention at the time. But I think that when I picked it up, it was with a clean palette. Like I didn't come in, I wasn't kind of still sitting in the echoes of a Kingdom of Ash hangover, or I wasn't wanting him to be a Reese or to be a Zayden. Like I just came in being like, what's this? What's
Yeah.
this?
Yeah. And he definitely felt like his own character, like a very new character, fresh character. Again, as I say, it's like there was enough about the Glacians to be really interesting, but I wanted to know more in that book. That's why I keep saying I feel like it's
Yeah.
almost that novella, a bit like the Assassin's Blade of this series. I don't know. It's a
I
peculiar
mean, I think
one.
it's a good sign that you want to know
Yes,
more. Like, it's obviously like that
absolutely.
there's enough there. I do think, like, say, for example, something like Divine Rivals and One Dark Window, like, they're only duologies, but I do feel like the world was much, much smaller. Like, it wasn't this kind of big premise of like different species and multiple kind of plot points and angles. In my mind, it felt like a much more simple arc, even though One Dark Window had really interesting magic, and Divine Rivals was very sweet. They felt like it would be hard to turn them into a 5-part. Like there wasn't
Yeah.
things that I wanted to know more about. I was kind of like, I mean, I could read more about them for sure, but it didn't feel like we've glossed over this whole section, or I wonder what happened when they went to that bit. Whereas
Yeah.
this does feel like the world could be vast if it had the chance to expand
Mm-hmm.
and fill
Mm-hmm.
that kind of creative space.
Yeah. I felt like the journey through reading Ledge was like straight in, so excited about learning more at the start, like really compelling, like straight into that ledge and that environment and what she was going through because she's chopping the wood and survival. And I was like, yes, I'm freaking loving this. I felt like the middle got a little bit flat. Like,
Mountain descent.
yeah, so they get down the mountain and then it's like we're at the inn and then we're like spending a lot of time at the inn. We're thinking about what we're going to do and we're drinking lots of alcohol and getting drunk and we're getting introduced to some really cool characters. Again, the representation in this book was great, with the different characters at the inn and how they came to be. And I was like, I just felt like the middle was like, come on, I want more depth. I want more excitement. I want more action, but I also like want to move this plot along. And then the end up again, like, oh my God, cliffhanger, absolute cliffhanger with Ryan. Is he dead? Is he not? So it was kind of like up, down, up. And I think because it left on that, she did so well with that ending. Off to Chasm we go. And I think that's probably why a lot of readers did. If that ending was flat, if that ending wasn't compelling enough, I don't know that we would have all jumped onto Chasm. Don't know. That was my experience of the story.
Yes.
Yes.
So interesting. I do read fast. So I feel like almost like I'm not sure if I notice a lag because I don't allow a lag. Like I'm just like, well, I'm going through it and
Carrying
now
on.
at the end, and we did it. Still feel like I absorb it all. You know what I mean? Like I didn't come out and be like,
no, yeah, you
what
do.
was her name again?
Yeah. I mean, I read it a month ago, so I can't remember anyone's names except for the main characters, but that's just my brain. That's what my brain does. Like I can't even remember the cool character that cross-dressed and was like non-binary, but I loved them so much.
Like Igor or something. Igor.
See,
Igor?
you've got
sure
such a
like...
good memory. I should have flicked through before we recorded this podcast, but I am that person. I see the TikToks where people are like, I could tell you absolutely everything and talk to you about this book for like 600 hours whilst reading it. And as soon as I shut the cover and I'm done, it's all gone out of my head. That's me. That is me. I can remember the Baltise, and she was the mage. See,
Ezra and Salem.
Yes. So Baltise the mage, like I'm like, oh, interesting, real, like the healer. But again, I felt like she kind of just popped up at the inn. I'm like, oh, how convenient that she just popped up at the inn when we need a healer. But really, in Chasm, I'll put that out there. You do learn a lot more about her and her magic as well.
A lot more of the backstory of all of them and how they came to know each other, and more about the Ledge community and the Glacians' history as well. So again, I do think like it's not too thick a book. Like if you're used to a Kingdom of Ash or a Heir of Fire or Fourth Wing, like you could definitely have those
something pages. That's why I felt like I just want people to know, like, continue, read Chasm, read it like it's one book almost. That would be how I would suggest people approach it, because otherwise I think you could get halfway through Ledge and go, it's not enough and DNF it and miss out on some really incredible magic that is coming. Yeah. And that's why I've got Valley pre-ordered. Bring it on. Is it August?
Yeah, I wonder how big Valley is in comparison to these, if it's similar to Chasm, because Chasm's a bit bigger.
Yes. Chasm took me a lot longer to get through.
400 pages.
Yeah.
But I wonder if the Valley, because there's a lot to be tied up there. There's a few loose ends floating around. So,
yes.
But yes, really I recommended it to you. I have recommended it to many people. And I also love that it's an Aussie author. Yes. And it is in a world that feels very new. Like I wasn't like, oh, this feels like an echo of Valeris. It doesn't feel like anything that is like, has she taken a bit of this and a bit, because sometimes, unfortunately, because we all read so many books, but also as a writer, as an author, you would, if you've consumed many of the books in your world, how do you not weave them together in your subconscious to sort of create a tapestry of a new story? And sometimes it feels a little bit like they haven't landed in a new world, whereas this feels very unique and very different kind of, the Glacians feel new, humans, the mortals still feel like mortals and stuff, but I'm just not sure, like, the timeline. Is this hundreds of years ago? Is it enough? It doesn't even have a time that feels connected to something.
True. I think I pictured it in like current day.
Did you? Because I feel like I pictured it in the past, because I was like, did they have phones or computers? I don't think so.
Well,
I
think that's true.
Like, I feel like they still farmed and they had knives and axes.
Yes. But I was like,
I
I
was
don't
thinking
know.
more like
I didn't
the
even think about that.
medieval times,
True.
Um,
Queens, inns. Yeah, absolutely. Now I see it, but that's funny. I was like picturing just, I don't know what I was thinking. It's funny when you
Wilson's
like,
got a phone in
I
her
get a
pocket.
picture of the Galatians. I'm like, I don't. Like, I don't get that level of detail in my mind. I picture them very cold looking, but that was about it, you know? But yes, so interesting how our brains work while we're reading.
That's right. And that's why it's such a subjective experience, right? Because we all take the same words and yet we construct a vastly unique sort of visual in our mind, the world we create in our mind, which is why it is incredible when they turn that into a movie that if like the majority connect with it. Like that's incredible. The fact that so many people read Harry Potter and also went, that actor is Harry Potter. Like I can see that. That actor is Draco. That actor is Hermione. Like that is incredible.
Yeah,
And the fact that
yeah,
they, could get Hogwarts and people who's that book became their world, that series became their world, to be like that is a representation that I believe, that
yeah.
I resonate with.
Very
Like I think that
challenging.
is amazing. But
Yeah, it'd
yes,
be very
I
challenging to
feel
do.
like I recommend this.
Yeah, so do
I'm
I.
excited to talk to Stacey and let her explain the kind of the process, but also we can ask those questions that I feel like pop into your head at random moments. And it's just like, when you pictured Ryan, did he have stubble? Did he have like a straw, like tiny details? What did his breath smell like? Because I don't feel like that there was many scents in this. Like I could tell you that
Oh,
Ryan smelt of smoke, cedar, and cinnamon.
okay.
There was no scent.
We need to
I feel like, what is his scent?
just
I need.
suggest to Stacey that in future books she has a scent assigned to the characters so Magella can imagine and create candles that fit.
That's right. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Just a gentle suggestion,
Just a
Stacey, if you want to take it
suggestion.
on board.
Yes. Yeah,
Like the
love it.
scents are
Okay.
imperative in romanticism.
I think that everyone should grab it and support a great Aussie author and give it a go. Grab it with Chasm, have a read, dive into our next review when we do Chasm, and maybe jump into our book club and share what you thought about it. Because we actually read Ledge in April for our book club pick. So you can read it later, come into the book club, share your thoughts as you go through it, and we'll be in there as well. But yes, enjoyed it. Very much looking forward to the next installment.
Yes, excited.
Great.
Okay, great. Well, that was our wrap up of Ledge, and we'll be back next time with another great episode of Fated.
Thank you so much. Ciao for now.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.